Now that you're done with the UI part, it's time to increment and display the score in the scoreboard. One of the key aspects of learning any new language, be it spoken language or computer language, is repetition. We'll be doing this a lot in this course to get you used to writing and thinking in Kotlin. Our goal is to show you core techniques that you'll be using all the time in Android development. In this case, I'll be showing you how to increment the score. You're going to modify the Bullseye app to show the user's total score at the bottom of the screen. This will be a review of several key things you've learned in this course up to this point. To get started, open up your project in progress or download a starter project for this episode and open it up in Android Studio. Then open up the main activity file. The first thing you do is to add a variable to hold the total score. Add the following code below the target value variable. In here, you added the total score variable and set it to 0. Next, let's increment its value whenever the player taps the Hit Me button. Add the following code inside the click listener of the Hit Me button. In here, we get the points generated from the points for current round function and add them to the total score variable. With this, whenever the player taps the Hit Me button, the total score will always increment. After that, we set the text of the GameScore text view to the total score. And we call the toString function on the total score so that it passes its string value to the text. Remember, text views only accept string and not integers, otherwise you'll get an error. Now, I know you must be wondering why the total score assignment is underlined with a warning. Go ahead and hover on that line so we can see what it says. Android Studio tells us that this expression can be replaced with an operator assignment. So I'll go ahead and click on the bulb icon and then select the suggested replacement. As you can see, we have a shorter expression. This is called operator assignments. In here, the value returned from the points for current round function is added to the current value of the total score. This is just a shorter syntax to get the job done. And if you recall, you used this type of expression in the previous course where you calculated the difference by multiplying the difference by -1. But we still have one more error. Hover over it or open up the Problems tab to see what it says. It says, only safe or non-null asserted calls are allowed on a nullable receiver of type text view. This means that the GameScore text view is now nullable. Now, what does nullable mean in Kotlin? The word nullable is gotten from the word null, and null simply means having no value. Now, let's relate this back to Bullseye. Inside Bullseye, you have two layout files for the main activity: the initial portrait layout and the landscape layout you generated in an earlier episode. Remember, we stopped working with the portrait layout and focused on the landscape layout since Bullseye is a full-screen landscape-based game. Now, notice something from the screenshots on the slide. The portrait layout does not contain the new game controls we added. Those views are only present in the landscape layout. This means that when you try to access a view like GameScore text view object from the main activity, there's a possibility you would get no value. There's a possibility that you would get a null value. Now, let's relate this back to Kotlin programming language. In Kotlin, null is used to represent an object reference that doesn't point to any object. Kotlin is designed to make all types to be non-null by default, because things could go wrong when you try accessing null references. So, Kotlin allows you to make a variable nullable if you know exactly what you're doing, and it also provides you with operators to do checks in a more concise way. To make a variable nullable, you simply append a question mark to its type. And that was what Android Studio did for you when you created the landscape layout. It made the new added controls nullable. And if you look at the Problems tab, you'll see that the text view has a question mark appended to it. Now, since Kotlin has given us the freedom to make variables nullable, it also makes sure that we are responsible free people, and that's why you have to play by the rules. It gives us some operator to safely access null values. Let's work with one of them now. Back in Android Studio, go to the error, then add in a question mark before the dot operator. The question mark and the dot is called the safe call operator in Kotlin. This way, you know that the text property of the text view can only be set to totalscore.toString if the GameScore text view is not null. Go ahead and run your app to try it out. Notice we have a score of 0 in the scoreboard. I'll move the slider and tap the Hit Me button. Cool! The score updates as expected. Move the slider once again and tap the Hit Me button. And this time around, it correctly adds the score. That's null safety in a nutshell. Kotlin makes all variables non-null by default, and if you choose to make a variable nullable, it provides a robust syntax to work with null references. We also added an extra measure by making the main activity's orientation to be only landscape. With this, the main activity would only access the landscape's GameScore text view when the app is running. Notice that the target text view didn't need any safe call, and this is because it is present in the to layout, which makes it non-null variable. The null safety topic can be unnecessarily overcomplicated, but if you understood what we did in this episode, then you have a good start with working with null references.